Phil Smith, also known as Phil Jerky, when I'm on the stage. I was diagnosed in July 2017. I was nearly 37 when I got the diagnosis, and it wasn't on my radar at all. Not something I knew anything about. I thought Parkinson's was an old man's shaky disease. You know, didn't even think it could be that at all. Not at all. It all started when I started getting pains in my right arm. I'm right-handed, so my dominant side is more sort of from my elbow down to my hands. And every time I typed or texted, or especially when it was cold, because I used to get the bus a lot, so we're waiting at the bus stop with painful hands, trying to text and thinking, what's going on. There are other symptoms going on at the same time, but I didn't connect them. I've always been sort of a clumsy, uncoordinated person. I just put that down to being, I'm 6'3", and I was built like a beanpole, so I just thought I'm just a bit of a clumsy person, like shuffling feet, like struggling to get my feet off the floor, and the soles of my shoes wearing down at an angle and that sort of thing, I just put that down to me being a bit clumsy, awkward sort of thing. But anyway, yeah, the main thing was the pain. Pain that was terrible, and I couldn't ignore it. I was thinking maybe trapped nerve or carpal tunnel or RSI or something like that. So I worked in an office, so there's a lot of typing and stuff, so I thought, oh, maybe it's just repetitive strain injury, So anyway, I went to a physio, and they, after several sessions, said, I think the exercises are happening very slightly, but there's something more significant under the surface, I think. So I was referred back to a GP, and obviously this is over a period of between first seeing a doctor about pains in my arms and getting the diagnosis. It was probably nearly, I don't know, about a year and a half to 2 years down, really. That's what the process felt like narrowing down what's going on. So I had an X-ray on my shoulder and my neck to see if that was related to that at all. I had needles put in my arms to stimulate the muscles, which was horrendous for me, so I'm never getting a tattoo. I'm not built. So yeah, and eventually it came down to Wilson's disease or Parkinson's disease, and I that's what the consultant said they were looking at. That was the penultimate appointment with that neurologist. And it's at that point, I go home and obviously you Google Wilson's disease symptoms and Parkinson's disease, and it's quite obvious from that it was Parkinson's. In some ways, that was more devastating than the final appointment, because the final appointment just told me what I already heavily suspected from what I'd already been told. That was my diagnosis journey, so to speak. Took a long time. Sorry, before that I had an MRI for an hour and a half, and then what finally gave the diagnosis was a DAT scan. So I felt incredibly lost, I think is the word I use, like devastated, like my world's ended, because I've got this condition and I knew nothing about it. So I'm worried of, I was in a failing relationship at the time. We had a 15-month-old son, and 2 months after my diagnosis, my now ex said she wanted to go separate ways. So there was a lot to deal with. So I just felt completely lost, didn't know what to do. I phoned Parkinson's UK after a couple of days, and they gave me some condolences and advice and sympathy, and and then obviously Googled a lot of things, Spotlight YOPD. I'm not sure if you heard of them. And I sent a message to the general email address, and the CEO gave me a ring back within half an hour. I was just walking up and down the street because I could never get a mobile reception in my old house at all, not at all. So I was just walking up and down the street, must look like an idiot, for about an hour and a half, and at about 10 o'clock at night. It was Gaynor, and she was just fantastic at Spotlight. And it wasn't so much what was in common. It was much more to do with allaying fears. Of you don't need to think about that yet, and whoa, slow down. You know, it's a progressive condition, but it's not going to get worse within a week. You know, just and obviously I've had to think about work and looking after my son and adaptations to the house and that sort of thing. Obviously I've had to think about that, but I was trying to think about everything at once in my way to process it. So I was one of these people. I wanted to be upfront with people, so I told people early on. I told my work early on. They were very understanding, and said to them, you don't need to do anything now. Don't panic. Don't get me in a wheelchair next week, whatever. It's just a lot to deal with, and it was great to have someone like Spotlight at YPD who's not just able to help. I guess it's loss of sense of smell for me. As looking back, there were loads of symptoms that were Parkinson's, and I didn't know. Everything from, I just wouldn't be able to smell things. And it was really, really strange. Obviously, this is before COVID time, so no one was like, you've got COVID, keep away. But it didn't mean that I could go into the perfume counter of a department store and not be floored by the smells, So every cloud. Other things as well that made sense that were horrendous for my relationship, like sexual dysfunction. I didn't know that was a Parkinson's thing, and that a huge impact on my relationship at the time. Something else that had a similar impact was my lack of ability to make things stick in my head. Memory, so I have to work the washing machine. I know what you're setting up in, what's put in, and the next day I'll be asking exactly the same stuff. And it's not just because I'm a man, okay? And I'd have quite a quiet voice at times, and I'd get quite frustrated because I didn't realise that what I was hearing was a lot quieter than what people were hearing. So I get quite frustrated when people, it's like, are they deaf? Come on, they can't hear me. So I'm speaking it, and I wasn't at all, Yeah. But now that I feel much more equipped now that I know the symptoms better. I don't have a routine as such. I do things when I need to, and sometimes I can't do things when I need to, and you just sort of have to do the best, Yeah. Especially when it comes to food, it's like another takeaway or another microwave meal because, it can be painful in my hands and my arms, and if you're stirring something, and I'm not a shaky person, I'm a jerky person. I could be stirring something and sort of thing and just go, decorating the walls or what's Phil cooking today? Let's have a look at the floor. I wouldn't say I'm acing it or cracked it at all, but I'm a lot more relaxed than I have been. I think the thing is, I don't think I'll ever be I'll ever be at an acceptance point. I admire people who can be, but I'm not one of these people who are like, oh, thank goodness I've got Parkinson's. I don't get that attitude at all. I'm so grateful for the people I've met. Yeah, I'm very grateful for the people I've met, but I would trade all my friendships to not have Parkinson's. That's how brutal it can be at days, with the pain and stuff. I try and manage by I guess the main thing for me is doing my comedy, because it gets me out of the house.
Yeah.
Out of the house and talk to people and be sociable. And if I inform people a bit about Parkinson's and make them laugh and hate themselves for laughing at the same time, because some of the jokes are quite brutal. I guess for me, I've always tried to find the humour in things, and it's a coping mechanism in a way, and it served me well, because I found the times that I can't laugh about it is when it consumes me, and it, you know, for a while it did consume me, and I needed an outlet. And there's not many hobbies you can do with your hands. Well, sorry, not with your hands. Most hobbies include your hands. I mean, I've still got to hold a mic, and that has varying degrees of success. But I'm yet to do a mic drop, so that's good. It was one of those things where I thought, well, I've always fancied doing it, and then I get the diagnosis, and everything feels more urgent, immediate. You know, like I can't guarantee to be able to do now what in X number of years' time. So in some way, it was a good thing in a way, because I sort of drifted and bumbled along, and you know, tootled, or whatever word you want to use. And then that gave me a sense of, right, you've got to do stuff. So my mate said, well, I went to this comedy course. It gave me a lot of help with structuring things, and you know, because brain can be a bit wild at times. Like, you know, mic work and crowd work and writing jokes and that sort of thing. So I went to that. It was about 12 weeks, and then there's a 5-minute performance at the end, and then, you know, most people just do that, and it's, oh, that's a nice thing, let's go and do a pottery class next, or whatever, you know. Obviously I wasn't going to do a pottery class, that wouldn't go well. So but then after that I was like, right, I want to give this a go. So so I found local, like, open mic nights and stuff like that, and I was trying not to do it about the Parkinson's, because I wanted it to be a break, you know, leave it at home and go out. And I wasn't that long diagnosed, I wasn't as parky as I can be now. I listen to my body a lot more. I need to do something now. I was like, well, I can't do something now. I think that's the biggest thing that I miss, is being able to just do stuff whenever you want to. And that's just that's not just because I'm a parent, you know. That comes into it as well. I'm very jealous of my friends who don't have kids and they can just put the coat on and leave the house. Like, oh, where should we go? When should we stay out until? Oh, until we feel like coming home. What, any day of the week? Any day of the week. Okay. So I was waffling. Yeah, the ability to do anything whenever you want to, I miss dearly. And when my meds are off, which they fluctuate a lot throughout the day, people say, you know, do you have good days or bad days? And I say I have good bits of days and bad bits of days. That's how much my Parkinson's fluctuates. And there's some people it's fairly constant, but for me it's very up and down throughout the day. Like, I'm off, I'm on. It's like a switch. It's not a dimmer switch. It's click off. You know. I have a friend who's very hot on like nutrition and stuff like that. Cut out certain, well, most sweeteners, because I found that a lot of drinks now are going to like zero and stuff like that to cut out sugar, but they're replacing it with like aspartame or whatever you call it. And for me, that just knocks out my medication. I might as well not take my meds, because it just has that effect. I try and cut down. Sugar's terrible, but when I was first diagnosed, I just like inhale chocolate. I'd eat so much chocolate, it's crazy. So I'm trying to keep an eye on sugar. Yeah, stress is the worst, I think. Stress is horrendous. And like the sense of responsibility that you're responsible for making sure something is done well, whether it be work or you know, home stuff, has a big impact on my Parkinson's. And also nerves about doing comedy can have an effect on that as well. But the biggest effect it can have with my comedy is that I get very jerky. So I just thought, well, call yourself Phil Jerky, because that's what you are. It's a double-edged sword, you know. I love doing the comedy, I love making people laugh, but it can be hard for my symptoms, you know.
Yeah.
Especially afterwards when the adrenaline's worn off. I'm like, you're right. Just bear with. And it can be quite tricky with that if I'm last on, and then you got to talk to audience members, which is nice, but sometimes I don't have a lot in reserve to be able to do that. And especially if I get a mask face, I'm not looking interested anyway, so you can come across as a bit of a diva. Don't talk to me, peasants, you know. Yeah, I mean, one of my jokes is, you know, I feel a bit of a fraud with Parkinson's because I don't have the one symptom that everyone seems to know, a tremor. But so it's a bit like I've got 99 problems, but the Twitch ain't one. So it's just silly stuff like that, but it makes people aware that, you know, we're not all shaky old guys. And you know, I've had medics in my audience who said, "Oh, well, I didn't know that," or "I didn't know that," you know. So it's helpful, but also quite alarming that they don't have a lot of training on Parkinson's. But I've heard it said that there's like more than 40 symptoms or something, a combination of it as Parky folk. But I'm yet to meet anyone who's got the exact same symptoms as me. There's one or two who are fairly similar, which is, you know, as close as you can get, but I'm yet to meet someone who's got the same Parkinson's as me, so to speak. It's just such a varied condition, isn't it? Don't try and think about and solve everything at once. Don't try and, you know, comprehend everything, because it's, you know, it's a cliche, but it's a marathon, not a sprint, when you've got a slow progressive condition. I prefer the word condition to disease, because disease implies that you can catch it, but I'm terrible at catching anything. But no, seriously, I mean, just don't Google your life expectancy. Don't, you know, but do seek conversations with friends who get it. You know, unless they've got Parkinson's, they're not going to fully understand. And even, as I say, even if they do, they're not going to fully understand your Parkinson's. Because my closest friends are those with conditions, or people who understand that I'm not always going to have energy. And obviously some friends who used to be close drop off, and some friends who didn't used to be that close increase. But yeah, I would just say don't try and swallow it in one mouthful, you know. I mean, as I say, try and keep stress and stuff to a minimum, but it is difficult when, you know, I'm 43, I still need to work. You know, it's not like I got diagnosed at 60 and I've got, I'll just take early retirement. Not that that's an easy option, but it's a much easier option than saying, what am I going to do for the next 20 or so years, you know? I'm in a position with my work where I'm looking to drop a day a week, not based on finance, but based on the fact I'm exhausted a lot of the time. And so yeah, it's just, especially in these economic times, it's hard to think about what's right for your health and then what's right for your bank balance. And there shouldn't be that pressure, because, you know, some days it feels ridiculous that I need to work because I can barely move a mouse or use a keyboard or think, or writing a text takes about half an hour and that sort of thing when my meds are off. So yeah, it's tricky. But as much as I can, I try and say, well, okay, that needs doing today, but I'll prioritize that for when my hands are working well. I've always been into music, but you know, music really helps sometimes cut through that. Because my mood can be terrible. I can be a right grumpy. What's it? I just ask my partner and my friends, you know, and just yeah, my partner says it's like she's dating two people and not in a sexy way. The biggest barrier to that is the apathy I get with my Parkinson's. My medication can be sat right on the table next to a glass of water, and I'll go, and it can be like 10 15 minutes later, and I go, I really should take those meds. It's probably that and anxiety are my worst symptoms, I'd say. The ones that affect me doing stuff and my mood. But apathy for me is absolutely crazy. I could tell you more about it, but to be honest, I can't be bothered. It'd be amiss of me not to mention, check out my comedy, Phil Jerky, on any social media platform. I'm terrible at self-promotion, but if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it. So, and yeah, just try and find the humor in what can be a brutal condition at times. And it seems unrelenting, but you know, lean into the good times, the times when you're meant to working, find laughter, find comedy, and yeah, it's serving me well.